This is day 1429. 1429 days since Richard was murdered right there by his own on the Fort Bliss footprint. Fort Bliss is in El Paso, the Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico. It's right there on the border. And so, you would think that our leadership would do some extra due diligence to make sure that we have extra security there. I think we do. I think we do. We spend a lot of money, and yet Richard's body has not been given back to us, and they're saying he was murdered. He was murdered. Um, this you just don't murder a soldier on Fort Bliss and then there's no look. The whole investigation has been botched. We know that it has been botched, and we know why it's been botched. And it's there's common denominators, and one common denominator is like this sex cult theme. Here, this sex cult um, common denominator. And you see that with what I just posted when it comes to Leilani Hart and Amber Chase. Um, when Amber Chase started her retaliation against us, for whatever reason, why is she even involved in this case, right? Um, Here she pops up and we don't even know who she is. So, but now we do, that she is an associate of Bob Moore. She is an associate of Leilani Hart. She is an associate of Dallas Hart. And what do they have in common? They have this sex cult mentality, you know. Um, and what do I mean by that? Well, we have breaking news, absolutely breaking news. We have now in our possession evidence, extra evidence, and they are communications between James Courtney Hart and his then wife. They just were divorced, and his then wife Leilani Hart. Um, Discussing the history of their families, um, of their family, and it's totally sexual in nature. I don't know if I can say this on a live stream, but it's totally sexual in nature. It's totally crimes against children. It's totally, like incest. Um, and it's long history. They're mentioning a bunch of people in their family tree there. Um, so these communications corroborate what we already are in possession of, the FBI the FBI case number we have, um, and of course the affidavit that went along with that. That is a notarized affidavit confession by Leilani Hart about incest in her family. And this is all while Dallas Hart is in uniform, okay? About a child, a 7-year-old child of a Fort Bliss soldier being sexually assaulted in Leilani Hart's master bedroom by multiple members of her family. And she failed to report that, right? And it says, I want to report all this. I want to report the incest. I want to report the child abuse. I want to report this child porn, um, these things. But I was threatened with my immigration status. So what does that mean? That means she has a problem with her immigration status on top of all this other uh, absolute despicable crimes. And now we have the communications between James Courtney Hart and Leilani Hart that corroborate what she was confessing to in the affidavit. She hasn't been arrested by the FBI because, people have told me she lied. Well, when you lied to the FBI, and we have the FBI case number that we confirmed, if she lied to the FBI, she would be arrested. She would be arrested, and she's not arrested. So that's why we have continued to mention that. And now we have these communications that, wowzer, y'all, wowzer. You have to go and catch fireflies with your grandchildren, right? And read them nice books and work in your garden and everything that's good in this world you have to go and do after you get this kind of information, because it's pollution. It's absolute pollution. And and Amber Chase and her words are pollution, right? And she absolutely has no remorse. It's just the other day I received notification that she's still in that same kind of sex cult, vile and vulgar theme in her being, her spirit. I guess it's this demon that it's just pollution. It's just absolutely filthy pollution. And what's very, very troubling is that she works for El Paso ISD, a teacher's assistant. No way, y'all. This case about, of course, she's mortuary affairs, right? That's where, other connections come in. But I don't want to confuse people, because all of that is coming out. We have just begun. We are assembling all of our evidence more and more, and now corroborating it. And I will be releasing a lot of evidence on Dallas Hart very soon. We're working on that. Absolutely, the CID and the FBI dropped the ball here. They absolutely have conflicts of interest. They're absolutely corrupt. There's, it's not all of it corrupt, all of it just incompetence. No, it's finely tuned with a little here, a little there, a little this. And in this case, it absolutely dropped the ball. There, and here, they were even asking us to be the investigators, to bring them leads, because they could do nothing, right? Because we know that in Richard's case, the CID was absolutely corrupt and had conflicts of interest because of Tavita Nusa being in the CID, and, of course, the conflicts of interest with Marlon Soto Hernandez. Right now, El Paso has a broken criminal justice system. And of course, that carried over into Fort Bliss. They were able to infiltrate our military, into our military CID. Okay? They were able to infiltrate into the FBI, into the El Paso FBI with Jesus Eddie Nieto, right, Jr. And they were absolutely able to go into our military there in El Paso. And this is human resources, y'all. This is all about human resources. The real, none of this could happen without someone infiltrating human resources. Whereas, we have information about who those are too, with, these officers behind FitFam, these human resources people have to choose and pick who they're going to put there. And, they were able to do that. It's nepotism, it is conflicts of interest, and why, if you're wondering how, with the reports that we're getting through the communications between Dallas's parents and the FBI, Leilani Hart's notarized affidavit about the activities in the Hart family, the broken hearts, that's what they are. They're the broken hearts. How he could go green to gold, this is, those are good questions. How he could be in the military, those are good questions. How he could become a leader in the military, and there is not even a wonder on what Richard was reporting, right? With this kind of activity being corroborated, the incest, the child sexual assault, the child pornography, the illegal weapons purchasing, that's not me saying it. That's Leilani Hart saying it. And that is the conversation between James Hart and Leilani Hart saying it. That's not me. They are saying, and it gets very graphic. The conversation between James Hart and Leilani Hart gets very graphic. And so there is no doubt what Richard was reporting. Okay? And how Dallas Hart became green to gold and into the military. And, we're being told he's still like in the military reserve. And what is going on in the military that we have this evidence and they are not aware of it? Is that what's going on? Because I just saw right before I came on, and I should go onto my Facebook to make sure that I have sound. It's yes. Absolutely. So I just saw right before I came on that Bob Moore is coming on to these live streams, coming on to our Facebook account. Why? Because we're the breaking news. He's coming to us for leads now, for the breaking news. And so I'm, exclusive here on Find Richard Halliday, really justice for Richard Halliday. And that is that we are now in possession of communications, very graphic, vulgar, vile communications between James Courtney Hart and Leilani Hart, the parents of Dallas Hart, Richard's platoon leader, discussing their family history of incest, of child sexual assault, of very graphic things, y'all, which corroborates the FBI accepted, notarized affidavit by Leilani Hart that she was confessing the same things. They totally overlay, they totally corroborate each other, and more names, more family members. It's when we mentioned Etty, we got a lot of people telling us things with Etty and questioning even his death, how he died. Just really shakes you up. It really shakes you up that this, because she's a convicted criminal and he's in has a high position in the VA. The father, El Paso, Fort Bliss, VA. And it seems, you know, you can leverage yourself. I mean, that all needs to be investigated, because if he is using his position as a negotiating tool, that needs to be discovered. And that, to me, that is absolutely suspicious, because with all of this crime, and with his son getting green to gold and being involved in this kind of activity, and of course, there's more breaking news. I'm going to stick with this to not confuse people, because I have been told, oh my gosh, this case is so vast. Well, what you need to know for tonight is that we just received evidence that corroborates Leilani Hart's FBI accepted notarized criminal complaint affidavit, where she confesses to major felony crimes within her family, which includes Dallas Hart, which gives a propensity to evil, to propensity to murder. And this is important because Dallas Hart is the prime suspect for the murder of our son, Richard Halliday. Okay? And it also corroborates what we are told that Richard was complaining about when he called CPS, Child Protective Services, multiple times, when he talked to Houston FBI, which is the child trafficking, when he talked to Washington, D.C., when there was IG all over the barracks because of Halliday. He stood up for El Paso. He stood up for the children. He stood up for these young mothers, right? These young mothers that are being exploited. And I've said that all the time because of his the audios that we have, the videos that we have, of him trying to stick up for these young mothers. But the young mothers have been groomed, y'all. They've been groomed to think that what Richard was standing up for is weird. That standing up for what is good and noble and true and being truly respected, truly being free to go after your potentiality instead of being sexually exploited, right, and used and abused. Just, they're just horny. They just want to see you naked, right? To be exploited and then to have broken hearts, right? Broken hearts. That's what that is. When women are exploited like this and then they have children, and it's just broken hearts. That's what happens. And so, Richard was sticking up for these mothers that, maybe one day Belen will understand. I don't know. But she did not understand it. That there would be this beautiful, beautiful, young, handsome soldier that was full of vim and vigor, number one in basic training, number one in AIT, but that did not want to exploit her, did not want to sexually abuse her. This, for her, she said, he's weird. He was weird. And to know that he was straight, that he was straight. So, an up guy, she called him, an up guy. So this corroborates what Richard's uh, audios, what his videos, the video. We even just we breaking news again. We received another photograph of the money that he was burning that absolutely shows for motion picture use only. So I'm really happy about that. He was burning for motion picture use only his Benjamins. He bought Benjamins, um, motion picture $100 bills. He would give them out at the school that he worked out to the kids. When they did something really great, he told me, I said, why are you buying this money? I love to give them money, to give them money. Yeah, of course, it was fake money. Um, so I just thought that was pretty clever as a teacher, um, because the little kids, they love to have that, right? They love to have that. Um, Now we have a really lame excuse for a dirty CID agent that put out. Why is this important? Because they put out that Richard was trying to pay for things with it, and absolutely no way, no way. I mean, the people are not dumb enough when you have, everyone knows what a bill looks like, right? And so anyway, so he was burning this motion picture money and saying um, that he rather burn his money than pay for whores and blow. And he was giving a message. And that little video was given to us by Belen Rocha. So he had sent that to her to say, look, um, not everybody can be bought, and not everybody wants to pay, you know, for exploiting young. Because she was only 17. She was only 17 when he sent her that. And she was being, she was being exploited. And he didn't want anything to do with it. Clearly, all the evidence shows that he didn't want anything to do with it, and that he was sticking up for El Paso, for Fort Bliss, for these young mothers, for the children. And that Vanity Fair, that makes a lot of money, this sex cult business, where you can, if you want to know what it looks like, just go to Amber Chase. If you want to know what it looks like, just go to Lilani Hart. And those two are associates of Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. You know, what is Bob Moore of El Paso Matters, right, doing with the likes of Amber Chase and Lilani Hart? And I would say Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. What is he doing with them? He's so discredited. It's so clear. And he's coming on to this site, not communicating with us. I mean, 15 times he should be calling us. He should be getting our take. He should be working with us. And now he's coming over to get our exclusives, to get our breaking news, to get the evidence in this case, without engaging properly, right? For a journalist of, his connections, his connections are pretty bad. His associates are pretty bad. KTSM, David Candelara, pretty bad. Pretty bad. Yeah, very. It's so disconcert. Angela Katurga, pretty bad. She is. Can you imagine? She reminds me of Mr. Caspi and Little Dorrit. It's a Charles Dickens story, and Mr. Caspi is, made out to be this benevolent, for the people kind of character, right? And he gets on the street and they're all like, "Oh, Mr. Caspi," and everything. And his right hand man, Mr. Panks, everyone's like, "Oh, he's so mean. He's so mean." Because Mr. Caspi owns the properties and Mr. Panks collects the rents. But behind the scenes, Mr. Panks wants to give these tenants a break, right? But Mr. Caspi's like, "Squeeze him harder, squeeze him harder." The real nature of him comes out behind the scenes. And yeah, it's you see a lot of these type of characters. And Angela Katurga, everyone's like, "Oh, Angela Katurga, she covers the border. She's so wonderful to, the people and this and that." Behind the scenes, she doesn't give a lickety split. The same thing with Veronica Escobar. They have all the pretense of what they should be on the outside, but all their actions behind the scenes, all that counts, is the opposite. Is the opposite. And the one thing you get with Amber Chase is she's vile and vulgar, and she's vile and vulgar. Whatever. You know what you're getting because she's always vile and vulgar. At least she doesn't pretend. She's just vile and vulgar. And she's an associate of Bob Moore of El Paso Matters. And El Paso Matters is supposed to have a reputation because they are funded, they are owned by El Paso Community Foundation, which is a charitable organization. And so you think that your associations would be, who you stick around is who you are, right? So what are El Paso Community Foundation? Who are they really? Because they're sticking around the likes of Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. They're sticking around the likes of Amber Chase. They're sticking around the likes of Leilani Hart and Leilani Hart's family, who she doesn't even timely report child sexual abuse and assault in her own master bedroom by multiple members of her family. And we have that corroborated now with the communications between James Courtney Hart and Leilani Hart, Iolanthia. And she has a new name now. She has a new name, and I need to learn it. It begins with an E, right? Begins with an E. She has a new name. She changes name. One of the things that I really think that I will campaign for in the future is this name situation where people can use 10 different names. They're using, I cannot tell you how many people in this case can use multiple names, right? Just multiple names. A name here, a name there, a name in this state, a name in that state. And they have their houses with different names and their phones with different names. And it is such fraud. It is such fraud. And they do it because of finances, with credit cards or with bankruptcies or purchasing, I don't know, different. They really know the system and play the system. And I feel kind of foolish sometimes because I'm learning the system and I'm like, wow, this is so dangerous because it is so ripe with opportunities for fraud. And that's why we have the fraud. the other, oh, thank you so much for coming on, Anicia. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for your love. And, and we have just a couple days until Richard's birthday. So it has been so absolutely busy. So absolutely busy fighting for justice for Richard Halliday. And we have really just begun. And so, I need to just put out all the material continuously, what we've already covered. But, the big change was the status of Richard. Now that the Army has admitted that he was murdered, we also have many more rights that we never had. And we have been absolutely busy trying to get more and more evidence. You see, that allows us access to more and more evidence. And, we have enough now, right? We have enough now. But, it seems like we have to have even more and more and more to drive the system to give us Richard's remains and give us justice. And, there is this theme talk with these criminals that they want, immunity, that, there's retribution. It's not retribution. It's not revenge. It's called accountability. It's called consequences. Consequences and accountability. And we're, our family, we're just always ready for mercy and grace because, that's just who we are. But the crime levels, the level of this crime, because of the 4 years of silence, we offered at the beginning just so much mercy. And I don't want to say, because, I'm really concerned for Danae, because I'm thinking that maybe some, because we're getting more and more people contacting us with more and more evidence, right? That some are afraid to come out, that are really close-knit in the group, like Danae, because they're afraid of the retaliation. The retaliation is real. We've lived it. The retaliation is real. And there's a game that the kids used to play called Zelda Skyward Sword. And at the beginning of this game, it's one of those computer games, Nintendo. At the beginning of this game, they're going to have a bird race, right? They each have a bird that they fly, and it's the Legend of Zelda, right? And they each have a bird, but this bully hides Link's bird, and the mission is to find the bird. And there's this character that I always remember that is like, oh, I was in the dining room and they didn't know I was there, and I overheard that they were going to kidnap your bird and hide your bird, and I was so afraid because what they would do to me if I told you that they took your bird and hid it and wanted to sabotage the race and sabotage your ability to fly, and all this, they would hurt me, right? And when they recognized that I was there and overheard, they came up and they said, if you say anything, I'm going to do this. Well, that's exactly what has happened in our son's case. These sex cultish bullies, and they've tried to do that with us, for months at a time. They were trying to, threaten, and they threatened to go to court. They threatened oh, if you sue us or whatever, we've got the lawyers and all that. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's go. You know, they show no mercy. They show um, no respect, no mercy, no. Well, at the very beginning, they were all like, oh, we're your family, to get information. But as soon as Yvonne Rosales was usurped from the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office by Bill Hicks, as soon as that happened, and they did not have to fear the prosecuting office of El Paso, and that was the official breaking, the breaking of the criminal justice system in El Paso. They started retaliating. They absolutely showed their real, true nature, and it's horrific. It's horrific. So we really need Yvonne Rosales to come back. Yvonne, please come back, because these bullies, these threateners, they threaten, they harass, they do even worse. They do even worse. They're up to no good. And if they do it to us, they do it to a lot of people. And we're getting more and more information that they're doing it to a lot of people behind the scenes. And we need the rightful holdover prosecutor, the district attorney for the 34th Judicial District. We need Yvonne Rosales to take her place. To take her place. Why? To restrain this evil. To restrain these people. They need to be restrained. They cannot be allowed to be these bullies, to be these vile and vulgar bullies. And that makes Bob Moore worse, right? If they're unleashed, if his attack dogs are unleashed, then he's a worse journalist. He becomes a total political entity. And, then they want to meddle in elections. Then they want to meddle in the rest of the politics. We need a true district attorney to restrain this terrible wave of vile and vulgar behavior, this sex cult behavior, because our children are at risk. Really. I mean, you hear that all the time, but truly in this case, you have this vile and vulgar mortuary affairs person working in El Paso IDS, Independent School District. No. It's just, it ain't right. What is in Gone with the Wind? Mammy. It ain't fitting. It just ain't fitting. I love her role too. I love Gone with the Wind. Yeah. She tells it very clearly that there's a difference between what is right and what is wrong. And what is right is that Yvonne Rosales comes back. What is right is that our law enforcement absolutely do their job, that we have enough, that Dallas Hart is the prime suspect in the murder of Richard, that Leilani Hart is absolutely a prime suspect in the murder, and, we have enough that she's totally an accomplice. that Tavita Nusa absolutely needs to be arrested. And I would say Jay Paulin absolutely needs to be arrested. And we need to get accountability. And those that are in the unit, those that were bullied, like this character in Skyward Sword at the beginning, that, if I said anything, they were going to come after me. If that happened to you, then, absolutely, we are understanding. We totally understand. We were there in 2020. We saw the shaking boots. We saw the intimidation. We saw the bullying. And more than just Richard's case, right? And more than just Richard's case. 2020, 2021 was just absolutely insanity. And so, yeah, the rest is accountability. Richard was brutally murdered, and they covered it up, and they're keeping his remains from us. And they absolutely have his remains. Okay, we're getting even more corroborating information about that. So, yeah, good luck finding him. What was the words from the likes of Amber Chase? And, who says that? Who says that? Because it was in the context of very vile and vulgar messages. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on. And I think that the broken hearts, yeah, and we are still going through more and more information that we have received, and we will be letting you know. But I think that is huge news. Thank you so much. Please share. Please share this. Please comment. Please like. And I will be back tomorrow. God